And we are live. Is our sound live? That is always the question. We're here with the pre-show on StarFall 2029 and needing to do a little bit of cleanup as we hope our sound is working. If the sound is working, if you're out there in listener land, please let us know in the chat so we can move on to the pre-show and the real show. But last week's episode was titled Release the Ferrets. I was very excited about this. I was so excited about this. And then I managed to completely forget about it for the entire episode. So we never got to tell the story of Release the Ferrets, which means that this week's episode, Where'd King Cobra Go? The punchline is just going to fall a little bit flat because no one knows that King Cobra is the most deadly of our ferrets. Or at least that's what I thought the first time I heard the story. But now, as I remember and tell it at the same time, I think perhaps King Cobra is our actual King Cobra. I can't recall. But the way this story goes is that I was going to leave the house a couple weeks ago to go do something, and a couple of our daughters were here. And they are old enough to stay home alone, although there are daughters, and one of them's younger than the other one. So I was concerned about making sure the doors are locked and telling them, be smart, don't start fires in the ceiling, and all this kind of stuff that a parent's supposed to do. and mainly, like, lock the doors, don't open to strangers, and all this. And I can't remember how, but the older of the two somehow began to talk about, but see, they didn't tell me that this was a plan. Somehow this was all role play character acting, like it happened in real time. But this is a plan that they have, or in the event that anyone should ever break into our home in, say, the middle of the dark of the deep of night, and they're not sure what's going on down in their bunk room, one of them is supposed to yell, "Release the ferrets!" So that whatever thieves are in the rest of the house just have to wonder. Mm-hmm. And then 3 to 15 seconds later, another one's supposed to yell, "Where'd King Cobra go?" And the first time I heard that as I'm leaving and they're doing this in the midst of some sort of chaos and the smallest one shouting about King Cobra. I mean, I'm just dying with love and laughter inside as I imagine King Cobra being the meanest and rudest of the ferrets who they were not going to release until they couldn't find him. Like, he was already out. Like, they were going to get him out, but now he's already out. Where is he? There's a ferret named King Cobra in the house, right? And all of that to be part of our game, this game, StarFall 2029, which is about role-playing whatever you need to roleplay to prepare for whatever you need to prepare for, which in this day and age could be violent home invasion depending on where you live in the world. It certainly, if you have daughters that are going to be out in the world, means preparing them to look both ways before they cross the street, not talk to strangers who they don't know, and go to church with good men and women, right? At least. But then maybe, just in case, if there's ever someone breaking in, be wise enough to realize that ferrets are a scary, scary pack.
What you're about to witness is one of the most sinister-sounding intros to a trailer to one of the greatest epics ever produced in the history of television. And there's more, because you are going to see it as well.
I lost all my cards. While everyone's losing their minds, let's play a game called StarFall 2029. Your weapon... hold on. Something's going wrong right there. That's going to be fixed. And there. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. There it is. Y'all heard me. I just couldn't see it right. Let's play a game called StarFall 2029. Your weapon is your mind. Your fuel is the word. Burn fewer bridges. Patch more walls. Tend your nets, fishers of men. Today is the day of justice, judgment, and justice. StarFall 2029 is a live-action role-playing gamification of discipleship by biblical literacy in the fine tradition of Orson Welles and George Orwell. It's a parabolic ontological rule set for hard resetting in-house Christian dialogue amongst all Protestant churches with the true lore of the Psalms, Proverbs, and red letters as a gateway to salvation in Jesus' name. Never forget, you may dash, duck, grapple, pray, hide, ready, search, stabilize, aid, use, make, break, offend, cast out, or raise up. Second star to the right and straight on to Apoo face. Have you realized we live in a sci-fi steampunk Wild West wasteland cosmic horror tribulation of a machine-induced madness? Pollution laden with systems that are breaking. A white tower, great society, land grab, casino, sleepwalking your neighbors to destruction with handheld brainwashing devices. Feminine victimhood, communist storytelling as power, and a cult of popcorn and politics lapping up every next revelation. The talking image says, how are we going to figure our way out of this one? I don't know. I mean, here I am, your DM, GM, Game Master, Magistri Divinitatis, Jonathan McAdam Fisk by name, Hune Honorum Spectantia, in nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti, Concordia Collegium. That's what it says on my credentials. I don't know if yours are in Latin like mine are, but my goal here with StarFall 2029 is to keep us all sane while the devil dances out there with the Pied Piper's scream of, dear heaven, the sky is falling, what shall we do next? Better have some more government, or maybe a new edition of legalism to your religion. What can we do to not trust that Jesus is in charge and prove that we are gods ourselves while everyone else is doing that? Right. Let's not. And we can kind of scoff play the game by saying, look, if you're worried about what, X, Y, or Z, maybe? Yeah, right. Then you shouldn't be. Worry about Apoo face. What is Apoo face, do you say? You cannot tell me who Apoo face is yet? You haven't been around long enough to know that Apoo face is a giant rock hurtling toward the earth, soon to come between us and the moon, passing perilously close to us. Not enough to probably mess up much more than a few waves of popularity here or there, but certainly enough for anybody who wants to make a big deal about something to do so. And I say, let's get ahead of the game and make a big deal right now, so when it shows up, we can all remember what a big waste of time worrying about nonsense is. It's just a gigantic distraction from what you could actually be doing with your time. No, I mean, here on a Friday night, what are you doing with your time? Listen to me. Okay, there's worse things to do in the world. But what am I doing with my time? I'm starting a movement to change the world by recognizing that they're lying to us and we should stop it. We should stop letting them. We should take care of our own minds, and that the power to do that is given to us by the Almighty God who made us from the dust, breathed into us His Spirit, and redeemed us by the blood of His Son on the cross, with words inspired and without error handed down from well before we were born, and set out in such a way that unless you are obstinate, it is obvious what they are for. So, for example, there is a book of prayers. There's one book of prayers in the Bible. Did you know that? One book of prayers. It's in the Bible. It's in the middle. Why? I don't know. We haven't relayed the thing out for several thousand years now. So, for some reason, it's all in order of size. But that said, there's a book of prayers in the Bible. It's in the middle, called the Psalms. If you pray them to Jesus, you will find out God exists. It will happen. The word is without error His own Holy Spirit to inspire you unto faith in Him. This is the God of the Old Testament in the present today. And the Proverbs are just His way of saying, look, you want the shorthand of how not to be stupid? Here it is. 30 chapters. Take you an afternoon, really. It's a lot to swallow in one afternoon. You should ponder it day by day for a while, because that'll really be what drives it in. But the point being here, right? While the rest of the world's losing their minds, we can say, but wormwood's going to fall from the sky one time or another, right? Rapture, boo-boo, yeah. And hey, wait. Oh, that's right. Jesus is in charge. And what was I going to do today before you screamed about that other thing? Oh, I'm going to still do that thing. Unless it's obvious that there are zombies, at which point I'm ready. Because why? Because I'm walking in the way of Jesus, so I'm ready for whatever may come. Whatever. Zombies, you say, Pastor Fisk? Zombies, I say. Yeah, well, let's chase that one sometime. One of you out there in listener land, ask me for my plan for zombies. I don't know. I'll have to think that through a little. But I've thought it through a bit from time to time. And, well, man, the real challenge with zombies, Meredith's right here listening to us all.
Good evening, everybody.
The real challenge with zombies would be, like, at what point is humanity no longer humanity and you can kill it on sight, right? That's the problem with the zombie lore of, say, movie world, where they're dead. Mm-hmm. They're already dead. You're not killing anything. They're already dead, right? Can that really be in this world? I'm not going to try to answer that question tonight. Instead, I'm going to tell you the goal of Starfall 2029 in keeping you sane means having you be set apart. Set apart. You know what that phrase, that we say a word in the Bible or in the church often. We talk about being holy. We talk about being sanctified. And a lot of people, they get into sanctification. They start thinking about how they can kind of like get their merit badges and all this kind of stuff. Maybe get some time out of purgatory. But what the word in the Bible means, sanctified, holy, it means set apart. or you could say different, I suppose. Unique also works, but unique because you've been taken from what is common and you've been set apart from what is common. So now you're unique. Now, this word is what God is. God is set apart. God is not of the creation. There is nothing like God. There is nothing that is God but God. Everything created has been made by God. He is set apart. Therefore, he also sets apart those which are his own. Anything that is his, which he is planning to save from this fallen creation, is also being set apart for salvation. That is made holy, really made holy for creation. I want you to embrace your identity as set apart, as the kingdom of Jesus Christ. StarFall 2029, role character, who are you going to be? Are you going to be the chosen maverick? Are you going to be a lion of the tribe of Judah? Are you going to be everyman Joe Talisman? Are you going to be the investigative mind? More on that in a moment. What I want you to be is a member of the kingdom of Jesus Christ. That's the kingdom of the heavens, the kingdom of God Almighty, the kingdom of David's throne, the kingdom of the man of peace, the kingdom of the exile, the diaspora. All these things have your identity be that you reign over where you are as God's body, as God's member, by means of his word and spirit alone, right? That his word and spirit have entered you to make you one with his body, which is the church, setting you apart as the kingdom in order to, again, live, reign, be his hands and feet by the words that you speak. That means to be a disciple. Today, for the first time in my many years as a pastor visiting Homebound, I began to talk to them about what it means to still be a disciple of Jesus in your latter years, particularly as you find out that being made like a child isn't always all it's cracked up to be. Sometimes being made like a child means being made helpless, and that's the chastisement God has to give you if he's going to teach you, disciple you in your elder years, that all your power isn't really yours. That you still must rely on him, and that when you're old, others will dress you and take you where you ought to go, as he said to Peter, I believe. So, discipleship, to embrace the fact that God's never done teaching you. You never learned it all. You haven't swallowed every bit of it. It's possible to forget. Or as one of my professors so wonderfully said, we leak. There's holes. Got to put it back in. So you are set apart as a member of the kingdom of God to be a disciple, a learned one who seeks. The scribe for the kingdom, according to Matthew 13, is one who asks Jesus, what does this mean? Right? You go and you seek his words. Tell me about these stories, Jesus. Let me learn from you. The God of Israel will teach us his ways, right? I want you to be set apart as members of the kingdom, disciples who study for the sake of your duty to each other. What's up with the church these days where everyone's there for them? Oh, I don't like this style of music. Why? You know, what about we are coming together because Christ died for us? And so whether I like you or not, we're here to build based upon the word as revealed. That is where we stand. And if you're not in that, then you're right. Then we shouldn't be working on this together. But if you're in that, then like, what's up with our need to like always feel anything? How about duty? How about duty overcoming what I feel like today, right? And this is where the Reformation has the power to continue to be the Protestant church in America, to protest against the Pope and the devil and Islam on every side, to lift up our voices and stop being silenced by the woke nonsense of a progressive Northeastern anti-incarnational, anti-Trinitarian feminization that's been happening for hundreds of years. Done with it. Say no, bye-bye, right? And stand instead as those who are certain that if we should fear anything, it's Apoo face, because he's coming soon. Run for the hills. The ferrets have been released. King Cobra might catch you if you're not careful. So again, follow the game, roll your character for righteousness by giving yourself over to psalmic and proverbial prayer and believing firmly that as the kingdom of God, we shall overcome. The era of wood and stone, brick and iron is gone now, and we live in a world that is less forgiving. The age of the byte and the quark, of the cog and the fuse, are less forgiving than the survival world of wood and stone. Now, don't get me wrong when I talk about forgiving, meaning like in the world of wood and stone, brick and iron, like people died. There's lots of dying. Everyone who died, though, they kind of knew God's angry. We need help, right? Now we're in a world where we think we're gods. We think we have it all laid out, and yet you barely can get it going every day, right? You're just holding on. I mean, one piece after the other. How much more information? Did you hear they stole all American Social Security numbers got stole yesterday? All of them.
Oh.
All of them. Somebody, some, I don't know, hackers. Byte and quark. The confusion and commingling of entertainment with education has catalyzed among us an epoch that's replaced fact with imagination and word with picture. Modern man pictures himself flying forward while casting himself heedlessly back into childishness. New windows of power imperil all previous ethical systems with their own flesh and consumerism. Acceleration is degrading tranquility. You have so much, but you have no peace. Convenience is tending into waste, and the smoke and mirrors gizmo to gimmick show of software and programming invites more and more manipulation from the sellers and looting rather than any kind of invention or courage. And of course, the churches lap it up left and right without thinking twice. Screen addiction is clearly revealing itself as a gateway to mental illness, and failing to restrict your appetites in any such avenue will generally lead to a morbid disaffection with life. Those are thoughts from a book called You Are Not a Gadget by a gentleman named Hepburn. Just the first 15 pages, you might look into it. While we're on a similar topic, an image-saturated mind, the mind that thinks with pictures rather than words. One of the powers of this image-saturated mind is that it is easily wrapped up in a reality disassociation loop. That is, reality confronts you, but you're able to imagine something you think is real based on all the pictures you've seen, and so you can't face reality. You go back to your imagined reality and disassociate with reality in a loop that then brings you back to you acted the same way, the same reality hits you in the face, but now you go back to your imagination of the way the world should be because you saw it in a movie all your life long, right? The image-saturated mind is easily wrapped up in a reality disassociation loop, in part because it traps the soul in an incessant quest to feel alive through seeing oneself. So part of the image-raised human's problem is that you're always trying to look at yourself. You're trying to imagine yourself. You don't just want to go do something, you want to see yourself doing it. Everything's a dream. It does not matter what you call it. If you refuse to believe in it, then you will become a part of it. The hive mind power of suggestive influence, media, messaging, manipulation is brainwashing and enslavement by any honest measure. The handwriting's on the wall. Was it Heckle, Eckel, Upharsin? Oh, no. Many Tekel Upharsin, that's it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And all of this I put under, this is just me, it's my opinion. Who am I? Jonathan McKenna Fisk, MDiv. What am I? Nobody. I'm nobody. Here's my opinion, though. It's a fifth generation warfare that's been done intentionally to us as a people. The concept of fifth generation warfare is well established for anyone who would like to tackle the literature. It is the only way to fight in the current age. As much as you want to be the swamp fox and run from the redcoats, it ain't going to happen. A 5G war is a war of perception. It's where the government realizes that all people are combatants in the narrative, and the narrative is the weapon of control. In a 5G war, there is no defined space-time combatant limitation. Every government, every agency, every group is on their own trying to survive in a world where they're against each other. Therefore, the governments that do have the power to spend the money to propagandize people will do so, whether their own or otherwise. A 5G war then targets baseline social cohesion with social terrorism. That is, it tries to break fractures in unified groups. If there's a group that agrees about everything in general, but has a small disagreement and doesn't think it's a big deal, a 5G war army will be used to propagandize that issue until it becomes an issue that divides the group. Or we'll find an issue to divide the group. Just imagine how many groups were not divided before 2020, and suddenly, well, let's just say we are. Yeah? A 5G war is a war of demoralization of a populace on purpose until, out of some sort of shame and guilt, it attacks itself, at the very least, by doing nothing until it's all over. Again, Christianity, do you know what's going on out there in the world? Or are you just happy to believe that we're all America still? Man is a symbolic storytelling animal. We talked about this last week. Thought is a mesh of the stories you feel you need to know, the questions those stories inspire you to ask, usually how do you fix it, and finally, your reliability among others. Right? So you tell stories so that you can believe you know what you're doing. This is what all men do, and within the pack, we tell and affirm these stories to each other so that we do not go insane. Right? We check the story. You know, the kid comes home, I was over there. No, you weren't. Right? You check the story. Left to himself, man will generally tell his own psychosocial niche story until he becomes a crazy person, one way or the other. He'll talk himself into just about anything, and groups can do that too. Right, which is where a 5G warfare realizes that and then targets the leaders, the people who tell the stories, and gets them to tell a different story. And 40 years later, nobody really knows who they are. Oh, goodness gracious. We're not done yet. Here's a little bit about power. It is worth studying power because, frankly, you can't live without it. A man who tries to not have any power, right? Someone who's like, oh, I'm nice. I don't try to make anyone do anything they don't like ever. Right? Someone who tries to do that is bound to ruin himself amongst everybody else. Because if he's actually going to do that, then everyone else is going to tell him what to do, and he's going to do it. Because power doesn't work in a vacuum. There is no vacuum. You can't just like have neutral power where you just don't have power. You either have power or you're under power. And for that reason, any human being who wants to own what they own, to duty, we talked about earlier, take care of your things, then you must learn to be honest enough about power, to embrace power where it is, and use it for the good, rather than what the person who says like, oh, I don't like to use power. They're always after the ideal. They want this perfect scenario where nobody has anything go wrong, where no suffering occurs, where no one's disappointed. And so they're just going to come along and be happy like everybody else. We're all just going to come along and dance and be happy with each other. And again, it doesn't ever work out that way. Your group doing that is under some other group's power, being, moved toward the cliff with the rest of the Lemians. And so the key to manhood, to humanhood, to reigning, is to stop trying to avoid power as some kind of ideal, which is what America tries to tell you to do, by the way, is avoid power as an ideal. Stop trying to avoid power as an ideal and use whatever power you have for whatever good you can. Use it, though. Use it for good. The inherited man, the carnal child inside of you, the original sinner, the human who's there, right? You have an elemental need to gain control over everything around you or submit into a place inside of something else that's in control of everything around you. So you either have to be in control of your space and have it be your space, and or that space needs to be inside of a bigger space where someone else is in control of you and you feel good about that. Everybody needs that. Everyone needs a place. And in your place, you're in control of what's inside, and outside someone else is in control, and that's good. You don't have to be in control of your street, right? Your police are in control of your street or something like that. So in this way, to understand that the attempt to avoid power again, which is sort of the nice guy's game, says I avoid power. I know I never make anyone do anything, or I'm just going to go along and do my thing. Let them over there do their thing. The problem with that again is that that is merely one other way of trying to gain power over the situation. Right? So the guy who says to you in a conversation, "Oh yeah, I don't really try to make anyone do anything." That's their own game that they're playing to keep power in their life, in their world, in their space, right? And they're telling that story as a means of power gain. Nobody is not trying to get power. And the guy who's saying, "I'm not trying to get power," he's trying harder than everybody else in the way of the victim, which is the way of the current American zeitgeist again. And it's understandable that like we hate powerlessness. Why would we not? I mean, that's part of what we rage against. But even, again, someone who's like, "Well, I'm just honest. I don't even try. I only tell the truth." Okay, that's one more form of a coercion. When you say, "I'm just honest. I only tell the truth," you're claiming moral superiority. You're claiming to have a better way than the other people who seize power and don't tell the truth or something like that. And what I'm getting at here a little bit isn't so much that you shouldn't tell the truth and seize power, or that you should tell the truth and not seize power, or something between there. It's more that to understand that telling the truth in a way that serves the good doesn't always mean saying what you think. It doesn't always mean saying what the ideal might be, or even poking a hole in the good because you can see a better way. In many times, the real power of reigning is in saying less, having knowledge you do not share because those under you cannot understand it, and yet you can share knowledge with them that will move them in ways that are not only good for you, but for the whole. For everybody, for them. And that's where they're in the place under you where they want to be, and they're going to like that. Nobody's mad about lots of power being used for them by somebody else. People don't get upset about that. When you come and you do something really good, like a millionaire moves into town and builds a new restaurant downtown, everyone's like, "Oh, we hate that guy." No, that's not what happens. Everyone goes to the restaurant. Right? People like it when they have things shared with them. What they don't like is when you have a lot of money, you keep it to yourself. No one likes that. Right? But people like power that's used for them. So don't be afraid to use power when it's yours for others. And then see that again as what reigning is really about. I feel like there's more here I could dig into. But this idea that, again, a man who tries to be naive at all times, who says, "Oh, I'm just honest. I just tell the truth. I don't play power games." You're playing a power game. When you say, "I'm just honest. I only tell the truth," that's a power game. And I'm not saying lie. I'm saying you're not as honest as you think you are, because you aren't telling everybody everything. Otherwise, you wouldn't say, "I am only honest," because you'd be more aware of what a power game that is, and what a absolute attempt to take control of the conversation it is when you would say such a thing in a group. You're like claiming again a virtue that no one else has. So see the game for what it is. Understand you're not going to escape power relationships, pack dynamics. It's part of who we are as a people. Nothing to be ashamed of it. It's good to be the king. It's good to be the queen. It's good to be the prince. It's good to be the princess. It's actually good to be a doorkeeper in the house of Jesus Christ. And one path to that would be to get yourself praying the Sons of Solomon prayers. You know the enemy's coming. You know he's going to stand in the gate. You know you want your children to lift up their eyes and call in the name of Jesus. Are you ready? sonsofsolomon.net. Check it out. We'll send you those booklets for free. We're putting up a snapshot at St. Paul Lutheran Church here in Rockford, Illinois, sp815.org. A picture on the cardboard wall.
It's a bulletin board.
That's what this is called. It's not a cardboard wall? No. Are you sure? We're putting...
Not generally, but it could be. Sure,
it
cardboard
up
wall.
on the bulletin board, a nice shot of the 6,000 Sons of Solomon documents we've sent out over 3.5 years here, and all the locations that they've gone to on just a U.S. map. We do have global locations as well, but putting that up, very exciting. If you have not begun praying the Sons of Solomon discipline, then you have not yet joined the most unifying Protestant Christian men's prayer movement in the history of since the Reformation. It's that easy. And just get on board. Let's go. No one's going to stop us. Bible alone, Scripture alone, right? Faith, grace, Christ. Sonsofsolomon.net. Trust me. Give it a shot. You will not be upset. Another announcement. Public service announcement. Oh, wait. Since we're going to have that. I want to let everybody know that today has not been a test of the emergency terrification system. Nothing was super scary today, so far as I can see from the news. There were some issues with the stock market last week. 3% drop or so. Happens every year. I was told by Nassim Taleb, who's a really smart guy. I don't talk to him personally, just saw a clip. But and then from there to here, I mean, the most of the loudest news, Trump and Elon Musk did like an interview, and then Britain got upset officially, like sent a letter of meanness to Elon, and Elon sent a meme back, and it was all very, very inappropriate for some people's mindsets. And I don't even know, but it's, the meteor is a much bigger deal to me than that. So that's where I'm at with those things. I mean, this week's been pretty tame in terms of the terror level of things. Oh, I did see something about Hezbollah was doing something else. That's overseas again. Anyway, Meredith, let's talk about, rather than the faraway stories that scare everybody and the fact that, Apoo face is coming, and let's get back into the old stop the white nose mindset here for a little bit and talk family and Fisk household and bathroom renovations. I know our fans can't possibly believe we're still in a bathroom renovation, but we are, and it's looking great.
Yeah, it is
the thing,
Hello, everybody. It's so good to be with you tonight. And I don't have my credentials written in Latin, but they can be written in whatever language I teach my kids. So this summer, it's Morse code.
Oh, that's exciting.
So there you go. Last summer, it was French. The summer before that, or 2 summers ago, it was Spanish. So we have been working on a bathroom renovation. You are designing the bathroom of your dreams, trying to figure out what...
designing the bathroom that I think can fit in that space and help my family as best.
What kind of hotel, restaurant, home versions of bathrooms you've seen in your life you want to actually try to imitate and put into practice here in our home.
It's a really tough line, right? Like you've seen bathrooms, you think, now's my chance, and then you've got Home Depot and Menards and the internet, which is a wide wasteland of, if somebody else knows, they can tell you where to go. Mm-hmm. So it's been kind of for me, a study in accepting the American plight and buying what we can, where we can, as much as I would like to do more. Like when you're living with 7 people in a split level with 1 bathroom and it's the master, like you just got to fix it at a certain point. And so I don't know. I think we're coming out of it with a really beautiful bathroom.
Absolutely.
I'm pretty nervous about the furniture. Like I'm not worried about the toilet. I think the American standard is going to be a good toilet, but I'm not sure about the sink and counter concept. I'm not sure about the height. And even though I've given in to the normal, I want a taller counter, but I'm giving into the normal for the sake of the family bathroom because it's what you can buy. And I as much as I probably could spend 3 to 4 years like really getting good at furniture and craft and figure out how to do some. I mean, I could really do it. I know I could. I could do anything I do long enough, but then I'd have to stop going to jiu-jitsu. I'd have to stop making art. I'd have to stop writing stories. I'd have to stop doing math. I'd have to stop doing physics. I'd have to stop. I probably could still preach the gospel. I could preach the gospel and do nothing but home renovation. But it's not in my cards at this point. It's to give someone else to do and get her done for my family. And how much of that's a real parable for men everywhere, where we really want to be the Minecraft hero. We want to be the one who achieves the dream. And we were raised on these talking boxes to think we can, and they're still telling us we can if we'll just subscribe to this and buy that and all this kind of stuff. But it's at a certain point, it's just enough to be. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to build the Versailles bathroom in my house. I'd love to just add 6 inches to the floor plan so we could fit in, the air ducts the right way. The gentleman who built this house was 1 part genius, 1 part fool. A genius to be able to make it fit where he made it fit. But that's the folly of it. It was like it's so in there that there's nowhere to work on it. And so anyhow, yeah, I don't know. But we can talk about the drawing that was on your your little
Yeah,
pin
so
board.
one of the things you mentioned, the American Standard toilet, and it's down to the nitty gritty where we actually talked today about, do we get the oval or do we save just that many inches and get the round? And I know you already ordered the oval, but you haven't ordered
I haven't
anything.
purchased
Oh, well,
it yet.
God be praised.
But you told me to
because
get the oval.
well, that's what I find to be most comfortable. I don't know if this is TMI, but here you go.
Well, Louis said today the women like the oval, so I mean, I guess okay. I don't know.
I
Welcome to
just
YouTube.
prefer those two toilets in our home. We have two oval and we had one round.
But it's out now.
And the round one is now gone. It was pink, so there's that.
And 2 feet tall.
And like 2 feet tall. No kidding. You'd sit down and you'd kind of fall because you expected it to be a certain height, and then whoop, it wasn't there.
Test. They say I'm quiet. I'm bringing myself back up. Why is that not? Oh, this way. There. Go, Meredith. Go.
Okay, so yeah, so I just figured that the discomfort of that toilet was because of the shape of the bowl itself. But our daughter, who drew the design that you saw on my desk, mentioned, she's like, I don't know if we can afford that many inches lost to one piece of furniture.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really valid point. The other point that was brought up as we were talking about things today is, if you are building a bathroom that you want to grow old in, having a door, any of the doors that would open inward, is a no-no.
Because
Why?
if you fall.
Because if you fall, you're stuck and nobody can get to
But
you.
we talked about this, and the way that the doors are in the house, let's see, it's going to have to open out to the stairs so you come up and reach it. Like,
I would love to have a sliding barn door.
I know, but then it will not close. We've talked about this.
Right. And I recognize that. I talked to the contractor about it, and he believes it will be fine. It'll be fine. But I thought that was a kind of neat option. I didn't even think about the fact that, like, it's something you don't want to have for elderly
Right?
users of the bathroom. That.
Did we explain why, or did I interrupt it?
You said because if you fall, and
Yeah.
I said you're stuck in there, nobody can get to you.
If you fall in front of the
If
door.
you're a large person.
Yeah.
If a tiny human, like a child, falls, usually you can shove them out of the way. It's not a big deal. But a larger human, that's not a very good idea. So I learned that today.
Mm-hmm.
We had picked out some tiles that were really beautiful in the lighting of the store. And then when we got them in the lighting of the actual life of our garage, like the outdoor lighting, they totally clash. So that was something that we kind of were looking at and going, oh, not expected. Okay. So trying to come up with a different plan for that. We think we've got it solved, but it will mean deciding which one we're in love with for the floor. So yeah, there are just these little things where you're like, what? That's not what I was expecting.
Yeah, well, it's news to me about the tiles not matching. So
yeah, so in the one of the tiles we chose was it's called shiplap, and it's like a distressed white barnwood look.
Yep.
And so the distressing is one color of gray. And then you take the floor tiles that are beautiful, like gray blue, and you put them next to it, and they're just off. The floor tile that was chosen is like a blue, and the shiplap is more of a brown gray. And so when you put them together, it's like, whoa, my brain doesn't know what to do with this. So it's those little things that then we just had to go, okay, so what was decided for the image you saw was, we really love the idea of the shiplap, and as the floor, that would be amazing. It would also make the room feel bigger because it's lighter than the gray blue tile that hopefully we can put somewhere else in our house. But then in the shower, having just more of a large white plain tile might help to make the room. So the other conversation is, You want a room that you can decorate and accentuate over time and eras, rather than bind yourself like our bathroom down by the kitchen to like an era. So it's an ode to the 70s down in the kitchen bathroom, where you have a lime green and brown with a bright orange, and that is on the wallpaper. And so you're kind of stuck. There's only so much you can do to decorate. So those were just different discussions as we were coming up with kind of ideas. And then it's like, oh, and then if you're going to have shelving inside the shower, you have to choose where that goes. So it's been a bigger project than I think anybody, well, we all knew it was going to be a big one, but just anticipating all the little decisions, I think is...
Oh, it's just endless. It's endless. And so goodness. The drawing then had it had the floor and the walls looking like there was... So with the wall tile in that drawing is that this is a different wall tile, one we haven't bought yet. And
right.
We would have to go and decide what that is.
Right. And we could use one of the tiles that we have for the wall and change the floor tile.
Right.
It's just we can't use both of what we bought
No, I understand
together.
that. Well, or at least...
We can.
I mean, I trust you all that you saw it. I haven't seen it. And so I believe you. It's amazing that they could be next to each other in the store and look fine.
Right. And that was why when our daughter pulled it out, she's like, Mother, you got to come see this. I was like, oh, that's not what I was expecting.
Where were you? You were looking at it in the daylight?
Mm-hmm.
Did you look at it in the bathroom itself?
No, we haven't pulled it up into the bathroom. The other thing that we have to note is the floor tiling is a different width than the wall tile.
That probably is
so
a bigger
that
issue.
Does mean that if we use those two, one has to go horizontal and one has to go vertical. I mean, okay, granted.
Sure.
Jesus will still come back if we don't do it that way and we have them both going vertical. But if they meet, it's going to be off by just that much that your brain is going to kind of do a little freak out moment. So who knew? Who knew?
Yeah, I'm not worried about that. I'm just thinking about the floor tile again.
It's so pretty.
But it's not going to... anyway, let's move on, and I'll ponder that while I sleep tonight or something. Dear Jesus. It's so silly. It's such a silly thing. You know, there's the text in Isaiah about, caring about what you hang on your walls and where you're going to go out to eat. And I don't want to, here I am online saying, hey, send us money so I can buy some more tile for my bathroom.
The coolest thing is we haven't opened any of it, so we can return everything.
Well, it's just, it's the casino that we live in, though, and how you don't have a choice. You got to stay in front of this thing. You're going to be a renter or you're going to be an owner. If you own, you got to fix it. Whatever they do.
I think is where having it be a very functional space that doesn't have its own personality is going to make it a timeless renovation. That's kind of what we're going for. We want to install stuff that will last its lifetime because everything, moth and rust. Okay. But if we sit here and do what is in as far as trending, then we're binding ourselves to a certain longevity. And so as stewards of this money that we have to use, the best decisions we can make is what we're going for. We're trying to make as good of decisions as possible. But like you said, we're just limited to what's available and what are, you aren't a carpenter. That isn't what you've given the past 40 years of your life to. And so, assuming you started when you were 5, 6. And so we're going to go with whatever the craftsmen of our era have available and know that in the end, Christ is in charge, right? Yeah. And God be praised for it, because being in charge of everybody's bathroom in this world would be way too much for one man, but not him.
Yeah. I'm amazed that anything works anywhere. And all you all out there that make things work and keep it working, thank you. Keep it going, because this is a tough world. And if we lose some of these gains, creature comfort gains that have made life not merely like more carnally easy, but in fact possible. The survival rates of children and mothers in delivery and all this, which is less to do with C-sections and more to do with showers and clean water. But it's just, having running water is such an important modern gift. And I used to talk about it before COVID. I remember before COVID, 2019, in the fall, when I'd first heard of COVID, before it was over here, trying to stir up the congregation to think about how life could become unsafe, how we think we're safe, but we're not. And I didn't really want it to actually come to fruition and prove itself to us. But I'll lose it. I lost it.
Well, we're talking about running water and how vital that is to life. And
in the same conversation health. In front of them, whenever I would bring it up before, I would talk about how I'm thankful for toilets and dentists, and everyone would chuckle and laugh. And I'd be like, no, really think about it. You really are thankful for these things. And I would hope that post 2020, all the more so, do we realize what a gift running water is. And doing the work of having to oversee and pay for and pray about a bathroom renovation, and then making decisions about new things that seem to be good but maybe aren't so good, like the new PEX plumbing, which everyone wants to use, which is instead of copper, and they're going to actually phase out copper and make copper illegal to buy as pipes, so that you have to buy plastic for your pipes. And while it is really smooth how the PEX is kind of wiggly and can do whatever you want with it, it is plastic again. And so for those who are concerned about microplastics at this time in history, they're pushing it in Illinois at least. And just because you can do something with plastic, I mean, the thing that gets me is we have a good idea like flexible piping. So okay, we'll try it with something like maybe more plant-based, like a hemp material, the fiberglass the kind of thing that they can make airplanes and surfboards out of. But anyway, in the meantime, plastic coming our way, and then so if we're going to try to make a decision to do copper while we can, which we are, you end up with a more expensive product and all this kind of stuff, or learning about these shark jaw, I think it was called. Really cool things that make plumbing a little bit easier by snapping pieces together. But apparently, if you aren't careful, you can, if it's connected to a pipe that would freeze, whereas like it's actually going to push the whole thing off, and you'll get a true full coming out of it, right? So that kind of thing. Yeah, right. So that's one to remember, that we're going to ask our contractor when we're done with this, before he goes and we take a break and don't do anything else, he still has to put in an on-off valve for the machine room outside pipe, which does have a shark bite on it on the inside, which would be a problem unless we put on a shut-off valve, and then we'll be fine because we'll shut off for the winter, right? Yeah. Which
you should do that anyway in northern Illinois.
Yeah. Anywhere where it freezes, it's a good idea. So, yeah. All the things. They just keep coming. No one told me in home economics. I didn't even get a home economics class.
I took sewing.
I remember being in a class in my senior year, there was a class that was supposed to be on like political American something. Okay. And at some point we did have to like read about investment portfolios or something and look at the newspaper.
That wasn't just regular economics?
No, it was not regular economics. And it was, I don't think so. And the teacher was pregnant, and then she missed like 2 months, and we had a substitute teacher who was like a guy, I don't know. It was senior year, it was like fifth period. I mean, I don't know. I don't remember, but I feel like I
didn't even have a fifth. What is it?
I feel like I could have learned about, what were we just talking about? Oh yeah. How to have shutoff valves for my outdoor. I guess it was Southern California. Nobody cared about frozen pipes.
Yeah, no. They're like, how to install AstroTurf. Okay, here we go. Don't sprinkle seeds. So yeah, you were asking if I had any Any funny stories to talk about?
Yes.
And one of the funny stories that goes along with home just maintenance in general is my story of painting our deck, which is it's in need of painting it again. Not surprising. I mean, a deck gets a lot of weather, it gets a lot of use, and God be praised for it. I would hate that my deck looked pristine and perfect, because that would mean that it didn't welcome many feet across it. And so I'm thankful that it's worn where it's worn, and may I see the wear and tear as a blessing to our home, right? So I was advised to wait until Labor Day to paint my deck the first year. And so I started, but then I found out that the weather turns very wet and cold post Labor Day in this part of the world. And so the paint would not set. So that quickly changed to waiting until I talked to an actual deck painter and said, when am I supposed to paint my deck? And he goes, you must only paint between Memorial Day and Labor Day. So we're end of May and early September. And otherwise the paint, it's just our weather conditions here are not going to be conducive for it to stay through the winter. Well, so I started painting, and in the process I was like, well, I'm outside, it's sunny, I'll wear my swimsuit to paint, so I'll get this gorgeous tan. And I got the worst sunburn on my
your
back.
Your
and
back was
my
hurting. That was
legs.
yeah.
And then I got like bullseye mosquito bites on my bum. It was just awful. And then it was gnat season, and I have this thing where I try to ignore annoying things. And so I was like, whatever, I'm just going to ignore these annoying, stinging feelings that I have on my back. I ended up getting zillions of little bites across my back, so that it like changed again the color of my back. And I would get into the shower after I was done painting and just squeal with pain because of how intense it felt to have the warmth on it. Like, if you have something itchy, take a cold shower.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I want a cold shower. Like, listening to you, I'm wanting a cold shower. Can we just stop the show and go take a cold shower?
Yeah. If you have eczema, take a cold shower at the end of your warm shower. Cold showers do wonders for skin irritations, swelling, muscle pains, all that good stuff about living on this side of paradise. So then we had one of our first like Hebron kind of people move into the area. And he was single, and he actually did house painting. And so he was like, let me help you. This will be the most wonderful, just relaxation time for my brain after a long day of computer work. So he came over, helped me finish. We got it done. And I kid you not, I was throwing away the empty cans. The project was finished. And I looked down at the paint can and I read interior paint. Jonathan, I painted our deck with interior paint.
It's held up quite nice for 3 years. I'm kind of impressed with it. I don't know. There's not a problem with it.
I know.
Keep using it.
I just felt like oh no, it's not going to last. And honestly, we trimmed the bushes, Fides and I, recently, and you can see there is a place where the paint is just peeling off in this big sheet. So not all of the cans I bought were interior, but enough that where you see the big wood spaces where God has distressed our deck rails for us, it probably was interior. I mixed them too in the pan. Like I was like, yeah, I have white paint. It's white. It's yay. We're good. We're doing it. And no. Are we having sound problems?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, a little bit. I apparently am still quiet, but it doesn't matter. Usually I'm too loud, so it's good enough.
So are you ready to move on
I don't know.
to questions?
I'm ready to ask you what your plan is for the. Are we painting this summer too?
I can't get to painting this summer.
We have to paint at least those little parts that are stripping, right?
Have to? No. Next year, have to.
Okay.
Absolutely. Next year, I'm not doing something called peck thing. So I'll have all that creative energy to pour into our deck, literally. But yeah, this year it's fine. It is what it is. We actually might need to replace a few boards on the deck. That just will be wise, I think. And then
that was the one that pops.
And then potentially God will send us helpers. I don't know. He has this way of being like, hey, I got your back. Don't worry about it. And so.
What does everybody else do? Goodness gracious. Hallelujah. Thank you all who help us. We appreciate it. If you do enjoy our show, enjoy us, enjoy theology the Lutheran Christian way, and want to have us continue to publish the gospel through whatever it is, from madpxm.com to sonsofsolomon.net to a brief history of power.com, hebroncollegium.org. You can support us, the Fisk family, at subscribestar.com/REVFISK. Become a subscriber to the show and know that you're helping the world go round. Also, if you haven't found Revfisk.com, where the Ziklag Daily goes out, there's some cool stuff, more and more. Going to talk about that on the other side of this break. All right, we are back and going to do a little promotional here, showing you some of Revfisk.com, what's coming out this week. I've really been enjoying sharing what's on my scrap room floor with the world as I explore the tools of the modern age. You can call it AI, I just call it a computer. I've discovered that you can learn a lot in the morning, and I like sharing it with you out there in the world. This week, a study I've wanted to do for years, and ChatGPT's been helping me begin into this. This is to distinguish all of the different characters in the book of Proverbs, all the different caricatures or types of people that Solomon describes as a way of understanding the world around you, from the sluggard and the sharp to the righteous, the wicked, the liar, the scoffer, the quibbler, and more. You can head over to the 814 Revfisk.com Ziklag Daily and get that initial Bible study development there, including key verses for every single one of the characters, so you can go look up and learn Solomon's framework. Also, while you're over there, yesterday a little tidbit on Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Meredith, I don't know if you know who this guy is. Born December 11th, 1918 in Kislovodsk, I probably said that wrong, Russia. He is a profound literary figure of the 20th century. He experienced life in a Soviet labor camp, imprisoned for his criticism of Stalin, and that forged him as a person. And when he was released, he wrote something called the name of the title's not right here in front of me. There's the Gulag Archipelago. And a couple quotes from him that really just, he speaks loudly when he speaks. I mean, one word of truth shall outweigh the whole world. I mean, that's a good thing for a Christian to believe anyway. But this one, in keeping silent about evil, in burying it so deep within us that no sign of it appears on the surface, we are implanting it, and it will rise up 1,000-fold in the future. The line separating good and evil passes not through states, nor between classes, nor between political parties, but right through every human heart. A decline in courage may be the most striking feature which an outside observer notices in the West. History's worst tragedies are written by the hands of men who believed they were being righteous. And too much of what is called education is little more than expensive isolation from reality. Again, those are all direct quotes from Alexander Solzhenitsyn in the article from Thursday the 15th over at the Ziklag Daily at Revfisk.com. If you head over to Mad Christian Mondays, you'll discover there is a new character sheet resource card sheet for StarFall 2029. You too can have your own cool stuff published here if you want to create something for the show. Merchandising is yogurt, it was wont to say. You can go download your character sheet in order to roll character as well as play with some of these cards. You can be the chosen maverick, don't want to be the quibbler. You might be of the tribe of Judah, and if you're everyday Joe Talisman, well then we know you know what's up. I mentioned the investigative mind earlier. Look at that Amaleki, those desert deceivers. Yes, more of those cards coming your way, and maybe someday we'll even get a deck published. Who knows? That's over at Mad Christian Mondays. StarFall 2029 and live action role-playing game. It means it's up to us, up to you, up to y'all us to make this thing whatever it's going to be. In the meantime, while we're here with the screen view, I was at a Homebound member's house today and just happened to walk into a show called The Y Files that was on, and ended up watching some of the Y Files because it just happened to be about the Ark of Noah. And there's a couple of sections of this that I want to share, and maybe eventually YouTube will be mad because it's content from YouTube, but hopefully, they have the content, it's their content. But I want you to hear a couple things. This first section, he's going to be talking about not only how he believes in the possibility of a worldwide flood, even though this guy's not a Christian. I mean, I couldn't believe this was on TV, okay? It's Prime, so it's not quite TV. It's YouTube. It's not quite the same thing. But I still couldn't believe what this guy said, especially given that he's not a Christian. So, and I'm going to take my headphones off here, and hopefully you'll be able to hear this, Meredith. We're going to go ahead and...
It was so compelling that the Turkish government officially claimed this was the place where Noah's Ark landed. There's even a visitor center, and the area is open to the public. But if the Ark really has been found, what does that mean? Does that mean everything in the Bible is true? Were there angels, watchers? Were there Nephilim? Is the earth really much younger than we thought? And my big question is God the angry, vengeful God we read about in the Old Testament? There's evidence of the Ark. There's evidence of the flood. If God punished humanity for being wicked, we should be very careful. We might want to try to be better people. We should be more kind, more honest, more forgiving. God already destroyed humanity once. We're his second try. And you know what they say? Third time's a charm.
Now, I don't know if you can just believe what he just said, right? Like
that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, like there might have been a flood, and that meant God is angry and vengeful, and so maybe we should be careful and try to be good people. And this is a non-Christian, saying this on the interwebs. There's a little bit more, so here we go again.
Now, the Great Flood. If you follow this channel, you know that I believe that really happened. And I believe it happened at the end of the Younger Dryas. I believe a massive solar event melted the ice caps and created the biggest catastrophe in human history. And if you follow this channel, you also know that the thing I fear most is not nuclear war or civil unrest or pandemics. I fear the sun. If
Oh,
an
wait.
asteroid is headed our way,
Wait,
we'll
what?
see it.
I thought he said the
It might
sun.
even be
Did he say the sun?
sun.
Wait. Meredith, do you see it on the screen?
I
Do you understand?
do.
It's Apoo face. Apoo face has made an appearance, everybody. Do you see that while he's talking about the flood and he's talking about solar flares in the sun, he's going to take a moment to implant in us to normalize the possibility of an asteroid and of our ability to, he's going to say our ability to stop it as a people if it comes, right? So this idea that Apoo face is out there and coming, and somewhere they kind of know and they're seeding the potential for it and normalizing the experience so we're ready for it. I mean, the odds of this being here in this biblical show, I find that very, very, very strange. So here's a little bit more.
Think about it. And if an asteroid actually hits, I believe the world would come together and all nations would do everything they could to help one another. But a major solar flare or coronal mass ejection, there's nowhere to hide from that.
Notice how he's trying to get you to not be afraid of Apoo face and fear the sun. I find it funny. I'm going to stop him here. We got one more thing. I'm going to go to his closing section where he's going to talk about what he believes again, and he's going to get into Christianity a little bit about how he doesn't believe it. And this is less about Apoo face. I think it's great that Apoo face showed up in this thing. But first off, how he talked about fearing God and doing good. And now we're going to see how this kind of God-fearing pagan is going to dismiss Jesus because of how he's heard of Jesus before, and then hope in the God who Jesus represents, but not in a way that really gives any kind of hope at all. So listen carefully to his despair. It's pretty important, I think.
Interesting characters and people wanted to learn more. So someone, or many someones, we don't know who, just wrote more.
It's like Bible fan fiction.
It's exactly like that. But different religions and denominations are going to have different interpretations. Remember, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church says the book is canon, and that church has been around for almost 3,000 years. Some Christians think reading the book is heresy, a crime against the church. But most scholars consider the Book of Enoch an important text that gives additional insight into the lives and beliefs of the people living at the time. Honestly, whether the Book of Enoch is canon or not, that's not important to me. It's an interesting academic discussion. As you know, I'm not religious, but I am fascinated by and have great respect for religions, all religions. I enjoy the stories, and for the most part, I think they teach good lessons. I'm more into fishes and loaves than fire and brimstone, but that's just my taste. But I know I'm gonna hear it in the comments. Every time I do a religious story, I get attacked. In the comments, there's gonna be people screaming at me in all caps to take Jesus into my heart or I'm going to hell. If that's what you believe, that's okay. I don't believe that. I don't know what happens after we die. I'm inclined to say nothing, just black. But there's a big piece of my heart that really wants to be wrong. Because when I finally pass on and walk down that tunnel, if I'm greeted by family and friends long past, and I find myself standing at the pearly gates, the first words out of my mouth are gonna be, thank God.
All right, so I know that was a little bit quiet. Some of you maybe didn't get to hear as well as you could. Hopefully you could pick up some of what he was saying. He was talking again about how, after he talked about the angry God being aware of him, he went into a discussion of he doesn't believe in the Jesus who you would have to believe in to go to heaven, but he's kind of a fishes and loaves kind of guy, he says, not fire and brimstone. And he says he believes that we're just going to die and have it all be black. You're just dead. But that if it's not black and if he is in heaven, that he'll say, thank God, then. Now, this guy was very winsome through the entire... I mean, I watched most of his shows. This is the most TV I've watched in a long time. I was kind of captured with my shut-in for a moment. And I was like, well, I guess we'll figure out if he's watching heresy or not. And the guy's winsome. He's intelligent. He did his research. You notice him talking about the Book of Enoch. He gives a pretty good overview, actually, of the varieties of ways Christians have looked at that book and all this. And yet, somehow the most he's ever gotten out of the king is typing in all caps how he'd better kind of randomly believe. I want people who are Christians who do believe to understand what a strange moral proposition it is when we just blanket tell people you must believe in Jesus without some sort of framework for why they would want to do that.
Right.
When the New Testament apostles are showing up in Greek areas, they're not just saying believe in random dude Jesus cuz. Rather, they tended to proclaim that the Jews, who everybody knows, has a king who they all killed, and he didn't stay dead, and he rose from the dead, and that's a crazy thing. We should pay attention to the risen king thing. Totally different than believe in Jesus or you go to hell. The kind of sales pitch that American evangelism has turned it into. And it's not as though it's not true. I mean, it is true that there's a narrow path, there's a wide path, and if you're on the wide path, you're going to burn. There's going to be gnashing of teeth, and you don't have the blood to cover you. That's all very true. That's just not the message that's been sent. Aside from what he did here about, we should repent of really evil things. We shouldn't be doing really evil things. And it sounds like he wants to repent of those. And he likes Jesus just fine until you somehow, I don't know. What a strange thing. What a strange thing. What do you think?
I found it really interesting when he started talking about the different religions of the world. The first image that was flashed on the screen was the White House.
I missed that.
Yeah, with the
when the flood, was that the flood image? No. When was that?
No, he just talks. It's before he goes into Enoch and before he talks about the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. He kind of mentions how there are all kinds of religions around the world, and the image is the White House with the it's a phallic symbol. What is that?
Oh, the the Washington Monument.
Yes, with the Washington Monument.
The Masonic temple that is built as Washington D.C. So some would say, I don't know. What do I know?
Yeah.
I know obelisks only show up in certain places, and if you pay attention, you'll notice them. They're definitely a thing. It takes a lot of effort to make an obelisk. It doesn't just fall out of the sky usually.
So I guess, like you mentioned, you haven't watched a lot of television. I haven't either, and I couldn't actually watch all of it because it was a little too quick and flashy for me. So I just turned my eyes away and listened to what he had to say for a lot of it. But because of stepping away, you do notice a lot more like what imagery is put with what words. And so we have the like you mentioned, there's this meteor and the image of the meteor, and then we have the White House. Interesting. Okay. It does turn us subliminal. It's a subliminal message. It's a subconscious. It goes deep into us so that then we start thinking and believing things that normally we wouldn't. Music works this way too. I've been talking to my kids about that and how important it is. Well, I guess I can talk about this part unless you have more to say.
Sounds great.
I was talking to our son and I said, if you ever find yourself burning with passion, you go on a run and then you take a cold shower when you get home. And while you're on your run, you listen to Christian music, whether that's hymnody or just Christian pop music, but you do not put in regular rock and roll.
Shot through the heart.
Right. Or pour some sugar on. No. No. It's not going to help because it gets into you. And even though you're not wanting to think that way, it will transition how your mind is kind of wired to think and trigger. So there you go. That's me talking about the subconscious as I read about it in a book called Blank.
Oh, for sure. And a decent book that I hope to read someday. I'm glad you picked it up off of my pile and are reading it for us. Yeah, the lack of awareness of your own body's doing and the ability to then outthink yourself by disciplining your body. Right? So that when you have plans for your body, you will find that your mind and your heart come along with your body much more than you thought they would. You thought you had to sit there and think about things to make it happen, but instead it's a result. So it's like one of the things, this is an old Tony Robbins bit, but it's pretty smooth. Like, are you tired? Do 20 jumping jacks. Just stand up, do 20 jumping jacks. You will be less tired after 20 jumping jacks than you were before. You may still be tired. You will be less tired than you were. You will have created energy. It's impossible not to. It's how your body works. Would you like to feel better? Go on a walk. You will have more energy. I do it every day. You will have more energy. So motion creates energy, not sedentariness.
Right.
So that's just one example again of then knowing that you can compel your body through discipline and rule sets and clocks and things like that to go on those walks that are going to give you that energy that you're going to get afterwards. That if you wait around thinking about it, you're never going to get there. Feeling for it is never going to show up.
Yeah. And I mean, we've talked about parenting on this show quite a bit. So the reason I was talking about this to our son was because I committed a little bit of a parenting oops. I was trying to engage my son in reading nonfiction materials. So books about building sheds or home, what are those called? Additions. Books about raising goats. There's a devotional. It's like 365 Days with Martin Luther. So I picked up this other book, which we actually have over at the Hebron Collegium in the library there. And if you want to help us supply books for the Hebron Collegium library, you can. I think the wish list is still linked on Ziklag, or is it not?
Well, it does exist on one of the older Ziklags. I haven't put it in
Not recently.
Okay. And that's one that's worth making a note about how to better publicize those lists. So thank you. Go on.
So I picked up this book called Every Man's Battle. I was like, hey, da-da, every man's battle, little man, here you go. I gave it to him and I walked away. I had no idea what was in this book. Oh, Christ have mercy. He comes to me and he's like, Mother, how do you? And I'm like, oh, whoa. You know what? Well, since you don't know, I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah.
And I'm not thinking your brain needs that book anymore. And he was really resistant.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is what I'm thinking. Your brain has just moved from, I went into classical education mode for him, grammar stage to logic stage. But this book is rhetoric. So if I give this information to you now, you're going to take it in a very different way than somebody who's actually dealing with these issues.
Correct.
And this could create those issues.
Correct. That's the danger with that book in general, is that it isn't necessarily a solution to the problem.
What do I love about it? I love the fact that when the author examines an issue that somebody writes in about, for example, he takes time to quote then scripture that points to, like, as a Christian, what can our mindset, what can our thought process be? What is God's word saying to us and guiding us in this area of life? So I found that to be really great. But like I said, that's rhetoric. Because he goes, Mother, there's no how-to list. I said, bingo. And that's what your brain's looking for, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
And this book is not speaking to your level.
No.
And so I'm really nervous that it's leading you down a path you don't want to go yet.
Yeah.
So then a few
hallelujah
days
again, though. I mean, God had a plan.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So then a few days later, there's been audiobooks listened to on iPads and blah, blah, blah. So Mother, can I have you do the passcode? And then, another child, Mother, can you do the passcode? And another child. Then a child goes into YouTube and is like, hey, I want to do a tutorial for a hairdo. Can I do that? Okay, that's fine. And then the child comes to me white-faced. Mother, you won't believe what I found. Like, what did you find? And she is like, everybody else denied it. Nobody said that it was them, except we haven't asked the brother. And so I'm like, how do you get to the history of YouTube? Show me, child, because I'm not literate in that way. And I'm like, and why are you in the history? And she's like, well, because that's how I find the videos that I've used before. So this tutorial is useful to me. So I go in history, and that way I use the same one. I don't have to worry about all the crummy dum-dum that they want to shove down my throat. And super intelligent. So I see, and one of them is something about sexual content on Twitch. And I noticed the little red bar at the bottom is halfway. So it's been watched halfway. The next one down, sex education.
Oh, no.
A little bar halfway. I click on the one that's Twitch, and all it is like legal dronings on about how Twitch tries to monitor things, and we use these different algorithms to
Hallelujah.
And then the other one I didn't get a chance to look at. But I went to the brother and I said, did you happen upon some strange things in YouTube? And there's big eyes. No.
Yeah,
and then I'm like, is that the answer that Jesus heard? And that is actually how I talk to my kids. So is that the answer Jesus knows? And and sometimes it's like, yeah. And then sometimes, and I looked him in the eyes. I said, honestly, this is a really scary thing that can hurt you and your family. It's not just about right now. And so if you get into this type of thing, I need you to tell me. And he goes, I wasn't even looking for that type of thing. And I said, exactly. Now do you understand? And then this was the funny thing. And all it was talking. God be praised.
God was watching out for you.
Thank you, Jesus.
Amen.
So I said, now, do you see how dangerous this is? Do you see how
Because my issue that I continually am
it
saying
is.
about how if you want to fight back against pornography, understand that it's idolatry. And then understand that idolatry doesn't stop with pornography. That the issue is not the pornography. The issue is the idolatry of the picture. And that I'm not saying all pictures are idols. I'm saying that the screen has a capacity to make it an idol to you without you knowing it. And you're worshiping pictures without realizing it. And that leads you then further and further into the picture world, where before you know it, you're looking at pictures that you didn't plan to look at. Well, that's what you're doing to begin with. You're always looking at pictures you didn't plan to look at, and they normalize it and they move you down the field until you're all used to.
Yeah, he was like, Mother, that wasn't even
Of course
he's
not.
been looking up drum tabs. Now, what songs has he been looking up? And what would that put into the algorithm? Because I know he listens to, 70s rock?
80s.
80s rock. And so, what words...
No, they're not good
is
words.
that gonna trigger in his search tabs? So, but I could tell he had fear. I said, Fides, I went to Target one time with my phone, and I told him, there's a microphone and a camera in every one of these devices. Now, I'm not about to say that it's absolutely listening and watching, but I've had experiences that have made it very coincidental. And if it's not watching and listening, then it's demonic, because I've had things come up where I'm like, how did Google know that I was talking about the Gaineses? How did it know that was what I wanted to see when I pulled my phone out?
Yes, it's quite something.
So
it's quite something. You wonder how it feeds you. And the things that I find that is like, wow. Like, I really needed that information. That information like solves universal problems, and it just showed up on Twitter today for me. How'd that happen?
Exactly.
Maybe they're selling it to me.
This is my story, and this is why after this happened, I stopped taking my phone in the car. Now I do not own a phone, so don't try to call me or text me. You can call me at my home phone. It's a landline, but I don't have a cell phone anymore. And what happened that made me leave my phone at home, much to my husband's chagrin, when he tried to text me while I was out was I called the Gaineses my besties jokingly to the kids at home. And just because I followed them through watching, that's kind of a scary word now, isn't it? Followed. So I
Follow me.
right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I'd watch them on Fixer Upper when we were at allergy shots in the waiting room, waiting our 20 minutes for the kids to like blow up or something. And then I read now I'm forgetting the name of it. I think it's called Magnolia magazine. Yeah. I read the books that were put out and sold at Hobby Lobby, the Magnolia story. And
You had to have Googled it at some point. You had to put it
I'm
into
sure
your,
I did,
and that's how it
because
showed up in your algorithm.
so then they're at Target and I would call them my besties at home. And then I would be like, oh, let's see what my bestie would think. And then I would put it into my phone and I would see her latest post on whatever. And then I'd put my phone away and move on with life. Well, one time I was at Target and they have Hearth and Hand is their product line that they sell at Target. And I said, before we leave, kids, I'm going to go visit my besties. And they had this poster with Chip and Joanna Gaines' bodies, like life-size poster up. And that was around their product. So I walk over to their stuff. But before I get there, I pulled out my phone to see something, clicked into Google, or Google opened, and there it is. The Gaines family blot on, this was back when Google like had a little picture that they created the Google words out of.
Was that Gaines Day?
And then down underneath they'd have maybe 4 or 5 stories that they wanted you to click on right away.
Right.
And that was them right there.
Yeah.
The Gaineses did this
That's
one
just
thing.
Jesus. That's just
and
Jesus
I was
saying.
like,
Jesus is just saying, just so you know, this group that you're following is paying a lot of money to be seen a lot of places and maybe is not who you want to follow. I don't know that there was anything demonic going on with the phone tracking you. I've heard these stories too. Usually it has something to do with you've searched.
oh, I'm sure.
And there's these things called cookies. That unless you're always erasing them, your computer has cookies on them. Every time you go to a website, they bury a cookie on your computer. And those cookies kind of still live there, watch you, send information back and forth, and sometimes communicate with other websites so that advertisements flow through the algorithm of the cookies. And they'll tell you what to see because they're all working together to keep you clicking. Yeah, so I don't know that I buy that they're completely listening. Although I'm totally with you too, where it's like, I
just left it at home after that. I felt uncomfortable. It became much more of a tool and less of an accessory that I carried around. Made me think twice. Before that, my phone did not come to church. And let me tell you, if you do that, Sabbath rest while you're at church from your phone, it is the most liberating thing you've ever experienced. We did it in the 80s and 90s, my friends. It was called an answering machine. We left our phones at home and we had our answering machines on. Yes. And when we got home, we got the messages and life continued on.
It's not the phone. This is the big lie. It's not a phone. It has a phone on it. It's not a phone. They've never been our phones.
I know. It's a brain. It's a brain extension.
It's a number of things. It's a universal device. It is a device. Man has sought out many devices, and we found one to rule them all here for sure. It is a map, a compass, a map, a clock, and a weather device. Well before it's a phone, and then it is also a stereo. It is a what did you call it earlier? It's a Morse code amplifying device. We call it text messaging now, but it's effectively Morse code on steroids. And so it's all those things. Right?
Yep.
And then it's a phone, but nobody calls. Rarely. Every once in a while. It can take calls.
As your personal assistant, I have been calling people more often, and let me tell you, it is such a joy. I have felt just a little bit I don't know, maybe I miss communicating with people face to face for some reason. And it's such a joy to consider that I'm going to talk to this human through my telephone for a little bit. And for just that little bit of time, like I'm in their life and they're in my life, I can do as I please with that time. I choose to kind of make them my friend for a minute. And so just sow seeds of love.
That's super cool.
Grace, goodness, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But that mindset has been a blessing to
that's
me.
Been very freeing. Sure. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you want me to call who? Okay. And I've gotten to know people in the congregation. I've gotten to know people across the country in computer rooms. And it's a part of the position that I really enjoy.
Good.
So it's been a gift.
I'm glad you're enjoying that. I've not had the same experience, although I'm kind of learning to like, how do I say this? Like I always have felt like when you're on the phone, you're kind of trapped. Like they're talking or you're talking and you're kind of stuck in this conversation where, I mean, this is my psychosis here where like I need to please this person on the phone because that's what we have to. I'm calling you. You want me to call you. We have to have a conversation. I want to be at peace after the conversation. That means I have to please you. Otherwise, you'll be upset and I won't be at peace. It's a horrible way to live. Don't try it at home. But what like the little inkling of freedom from that, like the other side of this in my head now is like, Jonathan never flips, from white to gray. Like he goes all the way to the other side. So the other side of it is like,
right.
Oh, like I'm talking to this machine on my desk and sitting here and then this machine that I'm talking to, there's another human that's talking to theirs and they think they're talking to me, but they're not. They're talking to their machine and they don't even know that I'm here except for when I talk to my machine. And so I can do whatever I want. I can think whatever I want. And frankly, I can be in the conversation on a level where I'm not even in the conversation, but I'm kind of over it, where like it's a game I'm playing with the machine. And this isn't to like minimize the actual person, whoever my friend is or my member is on the other side. But like, as opposed to being like totally nervous about the conversation and feeling like I'm trapped in it, there you have a tremendous power over the person on the other side of the phone. The less you say. Silence is so powerful on the phone. It's ridiculous. And I'm not saying use this for evil, like you were saying, use it for good. Realize how much power you have when you talk on the phone and that the other person is operating in a world in which they actually think you're face to face. And so they're expecting a certain kind of back and forth, but there's a stress level that comes with it. And if you can realize you're talking to a machine and that you're exerting power mostly through silence to the person who speaks, because if they stop speaking, you don't speak, they immediately go into like a, did I not make sense? I have to try to like, they're going to drive to make sure you made sense. They'll say it again or whatever, right? So you have all this power in how you respond. And then if like they talk for 3 minutes and then you change the topic, just say, well, so the weather's real nice. Again, you have so much power that in a face-to-face conversation, they'd be able to draw it back more quickly. And especially with cell phones where you can't talk over each other, right? You have to let it all finish out. You have so much power in the conversation if you just will say, I'm on a phone, and the other person doesn't know they're on a phone. I'm in charge now. You're in charge of that conversation. That's kind of what you've been doing. But you've been doing it as sort of like, I'm going to be in charge of this conversation for the sake of friendship for 3 minutes, and I'm going to make it our goal, right? But that's taking ownership of the space, and it's beautiful, what you're doing there. So I'm having, again, my own version of it, but it's just much more primitive and childish. It's kind of like, oh, there is power to be seized. Perhaps I will become a man someday and seize it, thing. But I'm laughing at something no one knows about except for Adam Kuntz, and he wouldn't get it either. Because, yeah, right? Yesterday we recorded a Brief History of Power. And spontaneously, twice in a row, and I don't think he understood, I did a Bill Clinton impression, which...
He didn't know it was Bill Clinton.
I don't know. I've never done one before.
He's not that old.
Maybe. No, he knows what Clinton is.
But he doesn't know what Clinton sounds like the way you
I don't know.
do.
I don't know if I do. That's just it. I don't know. I may do a really bad Bill Clinton. I've never tried before. I don't consider myself an impressionist. But it came out twice in a row. I could almost do it now, but I'm not so sure. I was going to do it and I didn't do it. And so now I'm laughing again at the whole fact that if you want to hear my Bill Clinton impression, you'll have to listen to Revfisk Power next Thursday. And then you can tell me whether or not it made any sense or if I just sounded like I drunkenly interrupted Dr. Coons twice in a row.
Oops.
Like, what's Fisk doing? Oh, that was his Bill Clinton. Really? I'm not so sure. Now, who was that, though? Did you pick up on that one? Yeah. Well, Hot Pocket. Come on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to say Brian Wolfmueller. But, the same, one and the same. He imitates Jim Gaffigan all the time.
Does he?
Mm-hmm. He loves Jim Gaffigan.
I don't know. I guess I just am hungry. Yeah, he does sound like him, doesn't he? I wonder if they're both from Texas. I wonder if they both have that, if it's some of the accent. Because Brian definitely has this accent.
No, I
that's
think
still
Jim's
latent.
from New York.
Is he? Oh, man. Because, yeah, he does. They do. Wow.
Well, Brian loves Jim
He
Jim
does.
Gaffigan.
He does.
He turned me on to Jim Gaffigan. I used to love comedy. Man, life is so heavy, and I love clean comedy. Absolutely. But I don't know. I've been morally wrestling with it.
It is an interesting distraction, like many other things, and often is a sophistic, cynical kind of mindset. So it is its own challenge, and laughter is its own challenge. I don't think to be rejected, but neither to be accepted in all forms. Laughter can be quite evil,
Right.
and so. Yeah, good on you.
So last time we chatted
Damn
on
whales.
the
Fat and lazy.
live interwebs.
Sorry, I got the Gaffigan bug going. Take out a wrapper, put
It's
directly
your
in toilet.
hidden talent.
It is my hidden talent. I know all the lines, and I have a daughter who's even better at it. Like, she only has to hear it once, and she can do all
Yeah,
of it.
she's crazy. She has had a sticker on her water bottle that said, "I speak fluently in movie quotes." And it was
Truth.
so
It's
true
Yeah.
that she's able to soak it up so fast. Like, I know that's going to be useful. Movie quotes, maybe not so.
It's my my version of photographic memory. I don't have a photographic memory the way that most people think of it, but I have a pretty powerful memory. Like, it doesn't take much to upload it and then hold on if I want, right? And so she's got that, and she it'll get used in a good way. It will. So
last week I was really excited and promoted the fact that you can like the Hebron Collegium on Facebook. Well, today I got this notice in my email and on the internet. Now, maybe I've been hacked, but they were like, "You are suspended from Facebook. You have been pegged as suspicious." So I don't know, people out there in the internet world, but maybe the Hebron Collegium isn't something you can go to right now. To be determined.
On Facebook?
I
check
appealed it.
Yes, as well
and
you
so
should.
Hopefully I did that right. But like, as I was sitting here listening to you talk about social security numbers and everything being stolen, I was like, oh my goodness, they asked me to take a screenshot of my face and send it into them.
Wait, Meredith,
Yeah.
did you do it?
Well,
You might have just got fished.
that's what I'm like.
Because Hebron Collegium's right here on Facebook. So we're going to go look at your email account after this and hope you didn't get your identity stolen, my friend.
Yeah.
Because you don't respond to emails by sending them pictures of your face. You did it?
No, well, not the email part. I went through, so there was this little
You're on
symbol.
Facebook.com.
Yeah.
Like,
and
you looked up where it says Facebook.com. You saw wwws and all this. Okay, well,
I
then
thought
you're
so.
probably fine.
And it said, this is why, all these different reasons. And then there was a blue little rectangle. It was kind of a large blue rectangle, and it said, to appeal this. And so
Well,
I
look,
hope.
here you are Your page is still there. It's looking good. And we got 12 followers and 6 likes. How do you get 12 followers and 6 likes? How do we not have like same likes as followers?
I don't know, because I told everybody to like it.
I wonder if that's on me though.
Facebook.
Like, did I not like it? Did I follow and not like it?
It's very confusing. Facebook, my friends out there, you guys.
Yeah, I'm struggling
who
with
are
it
on
right now.
Facebook,
Where's the? How would I like it?
kudos to you, because I was very confused. It was not intuitive. Jonathan and I had a conversation about it.
Shouldn't I be able to click on this button? See how there's a line under it? Shouldn't I be able to click on that and see who my followers are?
I think so.
But it doesn't work that way.
Maybe up in the corner where there are little red circles with,
No, that's going to be me.
notifications. Oh, because that's your
That has nothing to
right.
do with the Hebrew
Yeah,
Collegium.
I don't know.
So look, like
'Cause
there's
you're
like
not
totally a thing that says
signed in.
followers, and there's 12 of them, and you're supposed to click on it, and it doesn't do anything. And there's 3 pictures, and I'm like doxing a couple of you. Thank you for liking the Hebrew Collegium, but like, where is the rest of y'all's that are following? I don't get it. But you're definitely here, Meredith.
And
it
I
definitely
wondered-
exists. And
I wondered if it was because I tried to follow other people. And they're like, you business,
list of
religious
followers is
organization
unavailable.
are not supposed to follow
No,
people.
you're following me, and you're following issues, etc.
I tried to follow Brian Wolfmueller, but I can't. I couldn't figure it out. I'm not computer
it
literate
is
enough to
very-
figure out how to
it is
follow
a
Brian
very-
Wolfmueller on Facebook.
Very challenging reality. Facebook.
Yeah, so we'll look into that. I'm so thankful that you are my husband and can help me through that weirdness.
I think you've done a good job. I
queerness.
think 12 followers is pretty good for the first week.
I was like, it's Facebook Friday. I'm going to do my one post because that's how my brain works and I organize my life. And bloop. And it's like, you, Meredith, are suspicious and we're suspending you for 178 days unless you appeal. And I was like, oh, that's threatening.
What are you talking about, Meredith? That is so weird.
Well, I signed it up underneath. So the Hebrew Collegium is this page that Meredith Fisk started, or this organization on Facebook that Meredith Fisk started.
Uh-huh.
So I don't, maybe I
Hebron's
clicked-
okay, but you're in trouble.
That's, yeah.
What did you do?
I don't know, and that's the
You
problem.
totally got hacked.
I got hacked on
Meredith.
Facebook before, and that's why I quit.
Why'd you do this? This is all your
Because-
fault.
I know not what to do.
Well, I'm liking.
in
I'm looking. As I'm thinking
Computerland.
out loud and looking at the site. You did a good job with the page. And
Well,
I like
thank
the
you.
picture of the gloves looks really good. And the picture of the sardines is a good picture, but does not exactly look appealing because canned sardines in a picture doesn't look appealing.
Noted.
But yeah. A different thought. Had a jiu-jitsu thought. We'll let that go. We got 10 minutes left here or so in our time this evening.
Do you want to tackle a question?
I
or
would love
two?
to. Oh, we haven't even done that. How many do we have?
Two.
Goodness. Well, let's see if we can get one of them in. Hallelujah. If you got questions or comments for the show, please send them to us, madpxm.com/contact, and I promise we won't normally fail to get to them so long into the night.
Okay, so the two questions, I'm going to tell you what they're both about so that you can mentally prepare yourself, or you can decide to hold off on one of them.
Okay.
One of them is asking for advice or words of caution for a new young elder. And the other one is asking for guidance in the realm of birth control. Well, it's more like family planning.
Okay.
So there they are.
That's it? Just general advice on those two topics?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll go into them.
Good. There's
but-
more specific. Go.
Well, the first one is from our brother Pythias, who has recently been invited to join the board of elders at his church. And he is a rather young man. And so he's a little bit nervous about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so he wants to know what Reverend Jonathan Fisk has as far as advice and words of caution for a new young elder.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the first things to do is probably to read your church constitution and see what it says you are, because it's not the same even in every LCMS church. And the expectations, who is eligible, and all of that can be very different. So it is not a biblical office. The office of the elder is not a biblical office, aside from it being one of the many fathers in the congregation. And so see it as you're being recognized as someone who, if not a father yourself, is worthy of being a father, who people believe will handle your household well and be a good example of a Christian man in the congregation, and therefore capable of supporting the pastor in difficult decisions that need private counsel, as well as with the other Christian men in the congregation, defending the congregation against the pastor should it become evident that he is negligent in his duty, licentious in his lifestyle, or heretical in his teaching. And so all of those things are what your task is, generally speaking, which is no different than any other Christian's task, except for that you're doing it now publicly and on behalf of others, which is why, again, fathers are the ones that are to be generally sought after for this role, because in theory, once a man has raised a couple of them to 10 or 15 years of age, you've learned a thing or two in the process about patience. And so fatherhood, patience, and the eldership role in the congregation do go together. But that doesn't mean that you can't be a good elder if you are not a father. You don't have to be a father to get patience. It's just how I kind of view the role. And I generally view the other offices in the congregation, other volunteer capacities, as those which would kind of groom you for the eldership. And the eldership is sort of the final one. Even, say, the chairman or the secretary. It's a more menial task. They're dotting I's and crossing T's. And the elder's role is to be wise. Just to be wise. So are you a son of Solomon? I'm going to assume you are, because you're listening or writing in. But if you're not, become one. Start praying the Psalms. Get the other elders to pray them with you. Get them to pray one of those Psalms with you. Say, hey, elders, let's all pray Psalm 125 every day for our congregation for a year. Could it hurt? And whoever says, we don't like that idea, you can just know that they are resisting God's word for a very strange reason. So, take that tact. Bring the Proverbs with you. Read them, study them, have them available to you so that you speak them when you're there, and see if they can't be how you answer questions, especially as a young man. You don't need to pipe up and lead, but you can conclude things very well if you've got a biblical mind and a couple of quotes to add, basically. So that's that. Your pastor has approved of you being in this position, probably, or you wouldn't be there. As possible, it's a vacancy. But in all likelihood, your pastor recommended you for this. He believes you're competent for this. In spite of your youth, he thinks you have the maturity and the spiritual insight. It is not only those who are old who are wise, Elihu says, and Paul says to Timothy, do not let anyone look down on you because of your age and your youth. So it is not necessary that you be old to be an elder, but that you would be one who is mature in the heart and mature in the faith. And asking how can I be such a thing is the first step. The book of James is very clear. Would you be wise? Then ask the Father of lights from above, and he will give you wisdom. But do not ask for it and expect it to be the wisdom of the world. Ask for it, and then as you study the scriptures, trust them and find that they are wise for salvation and beyond. So there you go. I think that's a pretty general, well-rounded advice for eldership. The other thing would be, like, if you find that you're over your head, quit. Absolutely tell your pastor, I can't do this. This is hurting my soul. I can't do this, and get out, because it's hard work. Depending. Congregations, different congregations, different issues, conflicts, and whatnot. But you're not there to die for the congregation. You are here to die for Christ. There's a big difference, though. Right. So that's one. Let's do two.
Yeah, you've got great advice and great experience with a vast a variety of different kinds of elders, as you've been a pastor in various congregations around the country. I have always appreciated the confidential nature of an elder's role. Like, he keeps things close when someone comes to him.
They're supposed to, but they don't, because the role does not exist as a biblical role. It's hard to say that's always true. So I don't want to advise anyone to always trust their elders in their congregation or something like that. But ideally, they're a mature man who others can approach instead of the pastor, because they're trustworthy.
Right.
And the pastor trusts them too. And so even if they approach him with problems about the pastor, they're going to defend the pastor. and then go to the pastor not to attack but to work together for the good. That's the theory. Right? It's pretty important for that reason that elders be supportive of their pastor. If you're an elder and you're not supportive of your pastor and you're not trying to get him removed actively and verbally and saying so to him, then you should quit. If you can't support him, you shouldn't be in that role. Go do something else because the congregation's going to fall apart if the elders and pastor are fighting. You're going to do damage to the congregation. So unless you're saving the congregation with the fight, getting them back on track with the actual word of God, and it better be something big, like the incarnation. It better not be Semper Virgo. Goodness gracious. Hallelujah.
So Lucy wrote in, and she says that she is against birth control and IUDs. She would be excited if she found out about a baby in her womb. However, quote, not the most responsible time to intentionally try to have a child, end quote.
She married?
Well, her husband wasn't specifically mentioned, but I got the idea that yes, this is a married woman.
So not the most responsible time to have a child, but we are married.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. Like what does that mean? Not the most responsible time to have a child. Like what's the responsible time to have a child? Like I thought that's what married was. I can totally understand. Like, okay, so you're running from wild wolves through a desert wasteland currently. And it's like gonna be for the next 2 years. And you know that. So don't have sex for those 2 years. Really. Like you're gonna run through the desert with the wolves for 2 years. Don't have sex for those 2 years. Really. You don't want to be pregnant and running through the desert with the wolves. It's true. How many of those situations are realistic that you can actually see, plan, or have any understanding of it? Well, very, very few, if any. So what is it you think you're preparing for? That's the question. What is it you think you're going to get to that's suddenly going to make it so now it's okay and now is the right time? And, well, maybe it is the house and you bought the house and then once that happens, you and your husband do feel better and it all does work out and it's all fine, except for that it's not because you just don't know what you sold. You don't know what you sacrificed. You don't know what you gave up for the sake of a better house. Mm-hmm. You don't know who. You'll never know. Right. So, it isn't as though so I'll come up with another example, someone who just had a baby and went through a tremendously detrimental pregnancy, gave live birth, has the child. Everyone's healthy except mom's not healthy. Mom's really not healthy. Mom is physically and her body can't take it and couldn't do it again. Okay. Don't have sex. Like if it's really that serious, now it's time to just remember where we live and understand that we don't get to have romantic comedies for every night of our life, all our lives long, no matter what. So natural family planning is a scientific method by which you can learn how to track your fertility as a woman, and you can generally avoid those times when you would conceive that if you were to during such times give yourselves as a couple to prayer, reading of scripture, and maybe even fasting with the intent of asking God to provide you the capacity to move forward in the way you want to. I'm not going to condemn you for that. On Judgment Day, if Jesus is like, look, I got this problem I can't solve. Like they were Christians, but then they 2 years they did natural family planning. So I'm not sure. What do you think, Jonathan? I'd be like, Jesus, I'm pretty sure they're Christians. Like it's not. This isn't the end of your faith. It is a choice between wisdom and folly. It is like, do you build with gold or straw? And if you want to build with straw, you build with dollars and houses and land and cars. And if you want to build with gold, you build with people. Word of God, obviously, the good seed, but the good seed going into people. So what is it? Are you about to graduate and you got to finish school, right? I mean, if it comes down to it, why are you you got married so you think you can have sex but now not have kids, but have sex but not have kids because you got married so now it's okay because you're Americans? Don't have sex. You don't want to have kids. What, for 6 months? For 9 months? You're finishing school? What is it? Don't have sex. You want to have sex? Natural family planning. You can have sex 2 weeks a month. And it will work. 99% success rate for those who follow it. It's better than condoms, better than the pill. So, I mean, where's your issue? It's not birth control, and it is not
abortifacient.
well, yeah, that too for sure. But I'm even going to say that like natural family is not birth control. It's just abstinence. It's timed abstinence. Like, you're totally free to not have sex if you want. Now, if you're not having sex in order to avoid having children on a permanent reality because you just want to avoid having children, that's its own curse. Like, I don't need to tell you you're going to be cursed by not having kids. Like, you're choosing not to have kids. That's you did it to yourself. You don't even know. That's part of the curse itself. You don't even know what you're missing. So in that regard, what is this issue that makes it so it's not time? If it really is that serious, and I believe those are possible, and I described several of them, then it's that serious. And that means, like, really, like, you're married, but you cannot have sex for 6 months. You can do it. What happens when you have chemo or whatever, right? What are you going to do? So like on that, it should be achievable for you in the short term to discipline your bodies together in prayer with the intention of coming together again. That's Paul's language, by the way, coming together again for godly offspring. That's Malachi.
Yeah, so she wanted to know, what about condoms?
What a waste of your time is what I got on that one. I mean, you can try them if you think this is such a great example of like folly versus sin, right? Like you can call the condom sin if you want. If you want to get down to the narrow definition of sin being a mistake. I mean, in the Old Testament, it's a mistake. Okay? A trespass is worse than a sin. A sin's a mistake. And yes, the amalgamation of all your sins and your sinful condition is the evil of your fall. So don't, I'm not diminishing that. Sorry, getting late.
Condoms are a mistake.
Yeah, that's right. So you can call them a sin if you want in a marriage, where you would say to the person, like, you're missing the mark. Like if you think it through, like you're very much firing a blank, right? You're trying to, right? So there's kind of some funny there. But what they really are is just foolish, because they're not that effective compared to natural family planning. You're more likely to get pregnant when you don't want to. So it's foolish on that level. And then it's foolish in the sense of, like, the two are just not becoming one flesh. Like, you're just going to pretend to become one flesh. Like, you're going to almost become one flesh. Like, you're going to be so close to being one flesh, except for you're not actually going to be one flesh. And this is what you're going to do. And afterwards, you're going to know it. And even if you're like, well, that wasn't so bad. Yeah, you're right. That wasn't so bad. Yeah, we like that. We can do that sometimes. Like, both of you deep inside, you're like, that sucked. That really wasn't very good. Like, it's just the way it is. Why? Because you have this piece of plastic between you. It's gross, in fact. It's just gross. So, like, you totally can. Like, I mean, you can wear a tinfoil hat if you wish, right? In fact, did you notice the guy who was doing the TV show, what was hanging over his fishbowl?
Yeah. Was that a tinfoil hat? Yes. Oh, that's weird. I was like, what is that aluminum balloon?
And then,
how strange.
So today I'm sitting there with one of my homebound, and she's telling me about how she, like, used to travel to somebody's house somewhere in Wisconsin, their lake, I don't know what it was, and how her cell phone never worked there because they had a tin roof.
Oh.
And it all, like, came running home like, I need a tinfoil hat. It'll stop the 5G. It'll really work.
You just get a tin roof.
And paint it blue. If you know what that's about, that's a whole nother one. So, sin, missed the mark, condoms. Condoms are they're just dumb. They're like the worst answer. Like you just have better answers. Mm-hmm. It is a better answer than any abortifacient. Right? To abort your child is a worse answer than to wear plastic to pretend to have a relationship with each other. Okay. While you kind of have pleasurable coital experiences in each other's presence, and yet still don't become one flesh. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't make any sense when you can study your body, get to know your cycle, and for 12 days a month have marital bliss, and for 2 weeks a month, one's going to be a retreat and one's going to be prayer together, right? And for what, 6 months, for 9 months, for a year, you're pushing 3 years on this, and I just got to ask you, what are you waiting for? What do you? I totally get you're at the end of your senior year. You got married in the over Christmas break, and you really want to graduate and get jobs. So if you could just push it back 4 months, you're so worried about things that don't matter, but it's okay. You can push it back 4 months. And you can even do it with condoms if you want to. Steel roof. You can even do it with condoms if you want to. But I'm telling you, you will not enjoy that. You will not build a firm relationship with that. And you will with natural family planning. And you will if you just let her be too. And when I say just let her be, I mean trust Jesus to give you the baby you're supposed to have, even if that baby kills you. That I say that doesn't mean be a fool. It doesn't mean never take care of yourself. It doesn't mean don't try to do a better job. It doesn't mean assume that you can have as many kids as you want and never learn how to raise them and it'll all be fine and it won't bring your house down on you in fire. It could. So I'm not saying being a fool. I'm not saying act as though God's wrath is not here in this world. But I am saying that the blessing of children is not his wrath in the first place. I am saying that two becoming one flesh is so that man not be alone, and that is good, and that is not merely the coital unity of the pleasure we receive as a couple, but the bringing forth of more people as well. And once we remember this, once we discover this, that children are a heritage from Jesus, that he would turn the hearts of the fathers to their sons, this is indeed very much what Christianity is about, is in discovering the value of human life, that the son is not there to replace you by taking from you what you worked for, but there to receive what you have to give, the way you have received from your Father in heaven and now are given. So there's just so much more in the fullness of our bodies when we let them be what God made them to be than when we try to turn them into this sort of like modernized, sterilized, non-family, non-body. There's a movie called Demolition Man from, I think it's the 90s, maybe 2000s, Wesley Snipes and Sylvester Stallone. And it's in the future. There's this, Wesley Snipes is the criminal, and he gets put on ice from the 80s, and they wake him up in the future, and he's still bad. And then Sylvester Stallone's the cop from the 80s who somehow goes to the future to stop the bad guy in the future, and all this stuff where they do, running around shooting things in the future. But Sandra Bullock's in it as well, and she's in the future. She's a cop in the future, and her and Sylvester Stallone fall in love, and then they have this moment where they're gonna have sex, and she's all excited about it. She's like, you want to have sex with me? And he's like, oh, I'm Sylvester Stallone. I guess so, yeah. And so that wasn't a very good Sylvester Stallone, but
I thought you were doing Bill Clinton. I got a little
right.
confused. Okay.
Oh, I almost could do it again. It's like right on the verge of. I could almost do it, but I can't. It's there though. It's there. So she's like, well, would you like to have sex? And he's like, yes. Because it was like kind of forward, like, and
yeah.
It turns out that sex is that they both put on glasses and then sit there and like feel warm feelings that the glasses make them feel in the same room, but across couches from each other, and they never touch at all. And he's like, aren't we going to get naked and touch? And she's like, gross. Why would we ever do that? No one does that. And so like the whole future world is one in which they've completely isolated themselves, so that even sex is not touching. And that's what condoms are, and so I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying, why would you? You have other options. And so there you go.
You very well answered, is there a moral issue in family planning or condom use? And her last statement was, a woman can only conceive a few days each month, like you brought up. So based on her natural cycle, sex can sometimes be solely for pleasure, right?
Yes. But it's never solely for pleasure, because it's always also for comfort. So when you are receiving pleasure for yourself, you will be comforting your partner one way or the other. I'm sure there are exceptions to this rule, relationships where there's no comfort. But generally speaking, if you're coming together for sex, you're both going to receive something out of it. And so that it's never just for you. It's always for you together. And then your children will benefit from that, you being together. So even if you're not procreating at that moment, the bond of your marriage is what the children benefit from over a lifetime. And that moment is a moment that happens again and again in the lifetime for the sake of that bond. If you don't sleep with each other for 3 years, you're not going to really be very close anymore, or you'll be close in a very different way. And maybe that works out, but my guess is for most people, from 20 to 50, you're supposed to be coming together, and it's good for your kids, is what I'm saying. It's good for your kids. Even if, especially, they're not in the room, right? But like, your kids benefit from knowing that mom and dad love each other and are committed to each other, even if they never see it. They shouldn't see it, but they don't have to know that mom and dad are sleeping together at night. In our family, we're pretty open about it. Our kids know that we have sex. We know that it's part of how babies are made, that it's part of a marriage life, that we encourage them to pursue that. But it's not like it's so public that we still shut doors and things, right? So we're not the Native American teepee version of this. But again, that this strength, I think, in our family is that our kids are well aware that even though mom and dad argue sometimes, even though mom and dad don't always even have the ability to resolve the argument in the evening, mom and dad also always are getting together. Just always getting together. You see, there they go. They're going to go off in the room again. Like that, whatever they might go ew about, like they know who we are. And so I'm suggesting that for you, listener, you don't even have the kids yet. Like, yes, have sex, enjoy it with each other for your kids' sake. The love you share with each other will endure through the childbearing and through the child rearing years. And catch this one too, if you haven't seen it yet. This is a tough one, guys. All you guys out there that, you fall in love and you marry the girl and you think she's going to love you forever, and then she has a couple kids and you suddenly don't have all the time that you used to have with her. What makes it work? Well, first, a shared faith. Second, a shared vision of what life is actually about, like what should the house be and what should be in the house. But then also, truly, coitus. Truly, coming together in romance because you do still want to please each other is going to get you through many, 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 many hard times. Many, 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 many hard times. That's what it's given for. And to reject that is folly in its own right. One of the great challenges Christians have in our pornified culture is to recover sexuality as a glorious gift from God that we are unashamed of. That sex would be something we're not afraid of talking about. Or like I said a moment ago, that we're like, later kids, and then we go shut the door. Like, that's not shameful. That's glory. That's how God made it to be. And Christians of all people should be the most free in this realm, because we know that we stand in uprightness according to the law of God, that we do not sow our wild oats and cross-pollinate wherever we feel like it, but that we are monogamous and have fidelity to each other. Why? For the sake of the kids. That's why sex is for marriage, is because it's for making kids, and the kids need a mom and dad, and the mom and dad need I don't want other people's kids, I want my kids. So like it really is built to work. And that's where then the whole birth control mindset is like, yeah, but I don't want it to. I have better ideas, and I can hardly act as though I'm not one who's had those same errors, both advocating them and choosing on their behalf. And so, I say all of this as one who's just walked my own, done my best. The sins of my youth are behind me. The sins of my present, I still ask for forgiveness and fight against. But if I have the capacity to encourage you to do anything at this time, it's have as much sex as you can in your marriage with each other. Do it. And then let come what may, as you may, in the full knowledge that you are God's gifts to each other. And this is comfort. That's what it's for. And the child's comfort too. Maybe not every moment, but certainly quite a few moments.
There's nothing quite as fulfilling as becoming a mother for a woman.
No, it's what you're made for.
Yeah. I love how Solomon says it in chapter 14 of Proverbs. Where no oxen are, the trough is clean, but much increase comes by the strength of an ox.
Why do you think that's good now? Share that. Explain more.
Well, if I have no children,
Yeah.
I can have the magazine home. I can have the vacation to wherever. I can have the career that promotes me before the eyes of men. I can live in a way that from a temporal standpoint is success. If I have many children, my name will not be forgotten.
Not for a good long while.
I like you said, man was not meant to be alone, and you build your army around you, one baby at a time.
Your people. Your people. If you like what we do here at Stop the White Noise, it's not Stop the White Noise. It's StarFall 2029, Stop the White Noise, Roar of Everlasting, Revfisk Your Power, all the rest of it. Please, please, please consider supporting us. Subscribestar.com/Revfisk. And at Revfisk.com, you can sign up for the Zigzag Daily and pay there as well. If you like, $8 a month gets you a free picture of a tree. All the art that comes with Zigzag Daily and other things on Revfisk.com, Facebook, Twitter is free. You may take it, print it yourself, blow it up, put it wherever you like. Or if you'd like to have it blown up and put for you somewhere, like on a piece of metal or a nice canvas, I will be glad to do that for you close to at cost. You can reach out through madpxm.com/contact for that as well. Mad Christian Mondays at madpxm.com continues to be the single most reliable Christian news filtering service for Christians by Christians on the internet. Please, if you have not shared it with everyone you know, Thanksgiving is coming. Please plan to do so. And if you haven't found it yourself, you can head over there and pick it up. Lots more cool things in the background in the hopper on their way. But for now, let's at least do this. I can't believe I forgot this. This was supposed to be early on. Quest number 8.9.24. How did you do, quest rollers out there? Did you scatter the seed, leave the tares, expect sparrows, hide the leaven? Was it the whole lump? I don't know. Buy the field, seek pearls, remember the net. I am thinking about my week on this quest, and I know I've scattered the seed. I've said that several times. I know I got to leave the tares out once or twice. That was a tougher one to get in. Expect sparrows. I got out this morning when we had 100 sparrows in our backyard. I haven't gotten the leaven. Hide the leaven, the whole lump. I'm not sure. That one's a tougher one to fit in. Buy the field. I haven't really fit it in aside from talking about these phrases as a whole. Seek pearls. I haven't got it in by itself. I have gotten in tending the net. I have gotten in tending the net once or twice, just as a random metaphor. So there's my work on the Scatterer 7 Story Seeds, quest number 8.9.24. How'd you do? Did you try? You working on it?
Excuse me. I bought the field.
You actually bought the field?
I did. You'll get the bill soon, so just buckle your safety belt because it was kind of expensive. But no, I used the buy the field, and I find myself quoting a lot of other words of Jesus.
That's okay.
So yeah, there's that. I
That's
just
okay.
did my own quest, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's good. I there was something today that, like, I think I was even trying to talk about this, or how was it? But there's something that I said to somebody else. It had to be one of our members, and afterwards it struck. I was like, "Oh, I quoted Jesus." I didn't even realize it. I'd done it because it didn't seem like I was trying to, or didn't seem like I was saying something that was specifically biblical. But it nonetheless was like, oh wait, that's actually a Jesus quote too. Like he really did say that. So yeah, that's the idea of the game and the quest, is to get you thinking about it. And although I think these ones specifically have a certain capacity with the unbeliever, that if we will remember the parables when we're talking to people who don't believe, and stop trying to convince them that Jesus is the way to heaven, stop trying to convince them that they need to be justified or pray the sinner's prayer, and just start talking about life as though the parables are true with the parables. I have a funny feeling there's a bunch of people that are going to start asking questions. I just said, what do you mean by that? And he said, well, what Jesus meant by that? Jesus said that? Yeah, Jesus said that. I said, well, I didn't know that, Oh, Jonathan.
Whoops. A few thumbtacks on the table.
Just
Never
a
hurt
couple.
anybody.
Just a couple of these pins to fall on the floor right here before we try to close. Did I say anything after that happened, or did I just look at it? Hallelujah.
You said, "Oh, Jonathan," which is your typical
That's my mom's
way of
yeah.
talking to yourself after
that's a shaming voice.
a whoops.
It's a shaming voice. Oh, what a mess. I don't want it to all
It's
spill and
okay.
fall.
It's not like it's wet. They're all dry tacks. By the field, friend.
By the field.
What is it? The leaven one?
I'm trying to
Lump.
hide the leaven.
There's
The
a
whole
lot of
lump.
lump
I
right
know,
there,
sure is.
all over the table.
That's right. How's it like? A little leaven's the whole lump. A couple of spilled tacky pins on the carpet is all you need. You don't even need more than one, really. Oh, where did it go?
It'll attract the sparrows and the kitties.
And the kitties. Oh, the poor kitty. Oh, we can bring up the kitty before we go.
Supernova.
Yeah, there she is right there. Everybody see her. She's gigantic. When she goes out at night, she
Oh
hunts
my,
trucks.
look at those
I
eyes.
know, huh? She's ready to go. She's ready to go. All right. It's getting late. You've all been with us. Thank you for hanging out. We'll be back next week, StarFall 2029. I'm going to close the night with the words of life as you've learned to love them. That Jesus Christ is risen from the dead. That means you've been paid for, and that makes you immortal now. He's not going to be long anyway. The water seals it. The food feeds it. This is Christianity. You are listening to StarFall 2029, the live-action role-playing game that gets you reading your Bible, praying to Jesus, and trusting with others in the real story that's going to keep you sane while the world loses its mind. Lifting up your head all the more as you see the day approaching, refusing to wallow in the muck with those who have no hope, because you know, well, he is risen. Rock on and hallelujah. That's not the picture I want.
Was that worth $1? Click the Patreon link in the show notes to sign up. Pretty please?